Dear learners of Standard 8, how are you all? Hopefully, you all are fine, safe and sound at home by the blessings of Almighty Allah. Previously, I had discussed with you from your BTS book, page number 102, that is, and also from the lesson 4 and 5, different kinds of natural disasters. So, in your book, here is written about 4 kinds of natural disaster. Among them, I had already discussed about the earthquake and tsunami. Today, I am going to discuss landslide or landfall and fire. So, let's go to the class. What are you observing here? It's an image of landslide or landfall. Dear learners, normally this type of problem happened in our country in the northeastern and southeastern regions, that means mountainous area, as the hills of our country composed of sandstones or heavy mud, and there may have landslide occurs during the rainy season when intense rain or long term rain occur. And you know, the soil or landmass is porous, so always water wants to move underground. Thus, the soil structure or texture become wetty and landslide occur. So, I told you this type of problem especially occur in our country, that is Chattogram, Coxsbazar, Rangamati, Khagrachari, Bandarban, Sylhet, Netrokona and some other districts of Bangladesh, especially where there is the presence of hills. And for this landslide or landfall, many lives are lost and many houses are destroyed every year. So, we must have to be very much sincere about something. So, let us know about landslide. The movement downslope of a mass of rock, debris, earth or soil. Landslide occurs when gravitational and other types of shear stresses within a slope exceed the shear strength, that means resistance of shearing, so of the materials that form the slope. We can simply tell one thing, that is the sudden fall of a mass of earth from a hill or mountain is called landslide or landfall. So, causes of occurring landslide. Landslide may take place in different ways. A change in the stability of a slope can be caused by a number of factors acting together or alone. So, natural causes and man-made causes also for occurring the landslide. Natural causes of landslides include saturation, that means wetty condition by rainwater, infiltration, that means I told you the rainwater as soil porous, so rainwater always wants to go from the surface towards the underground, so it is the infiltration. Snow melting or glaciers melting. Then rising of underground water or increase of pore water pressure and increase of hydrostatic pressure in cracks or fractures. So, landmass or where we live, the land surface, there can be a crack or fractures, fatal, from where the rainwater during the rainy season can pass through these cracks for the hydrostatic pressure, and soil become saturated. For this reason, the hilly area or mountainous area, the soil structures become wetty and landslide occurs. Then other factors are loss or absence of vertical vegetative structure. So, vegetation is very much needed, that means plantation is much more needed to control the soil erosion, soil nutrients and soil structure. Then erosion of the toe of a slope by rivers or sea waves. When the erosion occur on the bank of the rivers by the sea waves, that time the land erosion or landslide can be occurred. Physical and chemical weathering process here, and this is ground shaking caused by earthquakes. So due to earthquake, landslide can be occurred, which can destabilize the slope directly or weaken the material and cause cracks that will eventually produce a landslide. So due to earthquake and due to volcanic eruption also, landslide can be occurred. Now we will know landslides are aggravated by human activities. So human beings also responsible for occurring the landslide or landfall, that is deforestation, cultivation and construction, dear learners. So in our country nowadays we are observing the massive deforestation and the leveling of hills, and by leveling of hills we are making different types of cottage, but we are not maintaining the rules of cutting the hills. For this reason landslide can be occurred, and due to the cultivation, unjudicial cultivation process and too much construction of the high-rise buildings. Vibration from machinery or traffic. Vibration also the cause of occurring the landslide. Blasting and mining. Then earthwork, that is by altering the shape of the slope or imposing new loads. We are creating a heavy load on the landmass or earth surface. In shallow soils, the removal of deep-rooted vegetation that burns colluvium to bedrock. So tree plantation is, vertical tree plantation actually very much needed for landslide or landfall. To agriculture or forestry activities and urbanization which change the amount of water infiltrating the soil. So too much industrialization and too much urbanization, both are very harmful for the landslide or landfall. In this phenomena we can tell the industrialization and urbanization is the blessings in one hand, but on the other hand it is curse for the life also, because many lives are lost and many houses, wealth are destroyed each and every year by the occurrence of different types of natural disaster. So preventive measures of landslide, what can we do? Afforestation should be promoted, tree plantation, and intensive grazing by domestic animals should be avoided. Construction of roads and dams should be restricted in fragile areas where the soil structures are not at stagnant condition or hard. People should be aware of the cause of landslide. Terrace farming on the hills slows down the rate of landslides. So people must have to be very much careful for occurring different types of malpractices. Now another one natural disaster, that is fire. Here you are observing this is fire and this is one type of fire. It is the fire simply occurs due to, sometimes it occurs due to willingness. Willingly we can do something on firing, and another type, that is the carelessness. Sometimes for our carelessness the accident occur due to fire. And another one, that is the wildfire. In Bengali it is known as dabanal. So this type of fire occur in many countries of the world. This fire takes place at forest in many countries because of immense heat, and it destroys forest resources as well as biodiversity. So normal fire, what is the definition? A process in which substances combine chemically with oxygen from the air and typically give out bright light, heat and smoke, combustion or burning. So this is the fire. And what is wildfire? A wildfire, bushfire, wildland fire or rural fire is an unplanned, unwanted, uncontrolled fire, is an area of combustible vegetation starting in rural areas and urban areas. Depending on the type of vegetation present, a wildfire can also be classified more specifically as a forest fire, brush fire, bush fire, desert fire, grass fire, hill fire, peat fire, prairie fire, vegetation fire or wildfire. Many organizations consider wildfire to mean an unplanned and unwanted fire, while wildfire is a broader term that includes prescribed fire as well as wildland fire uses. So, this is the natural fire. This fire takes place at forest in many countries, though this wildfire does not take place in our country. So, we will not consider the fire as a natural resources. So, what happened? In Bangladesh, fire takes place due to carelessness or as an accident. What are you observing? Everything has been destroyed. Many people have turned to have not as a consequence of it. Many lives and living of many people are physically challenged. So what happened? This accident occurred in our country in the year 2010, area Nimtoli, which is situated in Dhaka. So the day was very pathetic for the people of Nimtoli. The 2010 Dhaka fire was a fire in the city of Dhaka, Bangladesh, on 3rd June 2010 that killed at least 124 people, among them 117 on spot death and others later in hospital. So the fire occurred in the Nimtoli area of Old Dhaka. This accident usually take place in mills and factories, oil refineries, garments industry, jute industry, chemical godown, residential buildings, shop, offices and commercial centers can be happen this type of firing. This firing occurred, which occurred in the Nimtoli, that fire occurred caused from a chemical godown. So dear learners, it is to note here that both in the rural and urban area, lack of consciousness is a prime factor for fire, and often the sources of fire are burning ovens, lamp, mosquito coils, cigarettes, hurricanes, kerosene lamp, etc. So we must have to be very much careful when we are enjoying the firing or when we are not monitoring the most, that means electrical lines or points. So be very careful when you are also using these types of materials. So stay safe and stay blessed at your home. Thank you all.